program, Norml Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, Norml.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Norml Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Norml. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Norml Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Norml's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokets, and welcome. It is Thursday, April 5th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have ourselves a good time for the next couple of hours and bring you lots of news and information. We start by bringing into our virtual studio our senior news editor, Cannabis Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Russ. How's it going today?
Very well so far, and I hope things are going well for you up there. It's very, very rainy today.
Oh my gosh, it's freaking gorgeous today. I posted like the most beautiful picture today of our gorgeous blue sky over here. What's going on?
I don't know what's going on. I guess we got all the rain and you got all the blue sky, but hey, that's the way it goes sometimes in the Pacific Northwest.
It's my cheery disposition.
That must be it. So Carrie's got the news for us right after the first break. What's in the hemp headlines today?
Well, today we're going to talk about the regulate marijuana-like alcohol in Colorado. They're entering stage 2 or 3 or 4 of their process here now that they're done with the signature gathering. Also, we're going to go to L.A. area and talk about a dispensary that was closed there and what the citizens are doing to try to help that situation. And first up, I mean, you must be in heaven. We've got sports news every single day this week.
I know.
I've got some more sports news for you. I was thinking about putting it all down into just a few lines and handing it to Scott to read for his Norml Rock sports show.
All right, we'll get to that. And also, I've got some news on hemp support in Kentucky. We need to bring in some more hemp stories from time to time. Remind everybody that there are industrial uses of this plant that we are fighting for as well. And Carrie, when do we get to that Hemp History Week? Is that in May?
Hemp History Week is the first week in May. Yes.
All right. So we'll get to that.
Looking forward to that.
Soon enough as well. Also joining us in the studio today, we have got Brian hanging out over there. How you doing, Brian?
On one of these cameras.
There you are. There's the camera. How you doing? Good to see you in studio. Also on today's show, we've got some Groovin' Thursday music for you. I'm going to bring you a tune from Cocaine. And one of the reasons I'm bringing you his tune has to do with a subject I'll get into in hour 2. At the bottom of the hour, we've got Terry Joyce joining us for our Southern California scene. She's bringing actor Jorge Diaz to the show. He's co-starring in a new movie called Bud's House, so we'll talk all about that. And then at 45 after, I'm so excited, exclusive live interview with Oaksterdam founder and Prop 19 Chief Petitioner Richard Lee is going to join us from Oakland, California via Skype. We're going to talk to him and ask him about the federal raids, and he's going to tell us as much as his lawyers will let us know. So we'll get to that toward the bottom of the hour. Also, in hour 2, got time for a radical rant on OxyContin abuse, and I'm going to call George Will on some of his reefer madness.
You're listening to Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Weedmaps.com. I'm Radical Russ from Norml. In my job as outreach coordinator, I travel every month, and when I'm on the road, I need a fast, accurate way to find the medical marijuana dispensaries in the area. So I turn to Weedmaps.com. Weedmaps.com has the best dispensary locator online or on your mobile device. Search by zip code or let Weedmaps find you, and in seconds you'll have the addresses, phone numbers, and customer service reviews for the medical marijuana dispensaries in the local area. Weedmaps.com also has a section devoted to helping you find a doctor who understands and recommends medical marijuana under your state's law. You can even check prices on the Medical Marijuana Stock Exchange. Coming soon, you'll even be able to find the listings of Norml attorneys and chapters, local head shops and grow shops, and the best weed-friendly businesses. Weedmaps.com has the information you need to be an informed cannabis consumer. Visit Weedmaps.com today, a proud sponsor of the Norml Network.
Inhaling deeply of the sacred smoke.
Aloha, this is Zion Thompson from The Green, and you're listening to Norml Show Live.
Hi, I'm Radical Russ. One of the best things about marijuana is the wonderful aroma. But when you travel a lot like I do, that aroma becomes a suspicious smell. That's why I endorse stealth-products.com, the leaders in smell-proof containers. From smell-proof vacuum bags to smell-proof backpacks and duffel bags, all the way to smell-proof digital safes, stealth-products.com has you covered. Stealth-products.com brings you safe, secure, odorless layers of protection with activated carbon fiber. Backpacks and duffel bags are simple black so as not to attract attention with a logo or flashy design. Now, nothing is perfectly odor controlled from the detection of drug dogs, but with proper vigilance, containers from stealth-products.com will help you avoid nosy humans.
You're now listening to Elliot Beats.
Stealth-products.com. Stealth-products.com.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Norml News with Cannabis Carrie.
And we have another follow-up on an NFL player and his legal troubles with the ganja. This time, wide receiver and Cincinnati Bengals member Jerome Simpson, who we told you back in January was up on marijuana trafficking charges in the state of Kentucky. Now, the charges stem from a sting that was set up in September of last year when authorities tracked a package of marijuana from California to Simpson's home in Crestview, Kentucky, a town that's just across the Ohio River from Cincinnati. The package contained 2.5 pounds of marijuana, and when investigators showed up at Simpson's home for the package, they found an additional 6 pounds of marijuana alongside some scales and some paraphernalia. A second Bengals team member was in the home during the bust, Anthony Collins, but he was released and not charged with the crime. His coach says it was a case of him being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, earlier today, Jerome Simpson finally learned his fate, at least his legal fate anyway. I can't comment on the future of his NFL career. Simpson received a sentence today of just 15 days in jail, but the 25-year-old will have to be on probation for 3 full years. That includes counseling and drug testing. Simpson will also have to serve 200 hours of community service, pay for all that drug testing, and also pay $7,500 in fines, plus additional court costs. A Covington judge reduced his jail time considerably from the one recommended by prosecutors as part of a plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to the 2 pounds of marijuana shipped to him, but thankfully the evidence from his home was thrown out. His charge of marijuana trafficking was reduced to a prohibited act relating to a controlled substance. Now, that's still a felony, but at least it's not marijuana trafficking. In court today, he was wearing a nice suit, and Simpson apologized to his family and the community and his teammates. He told the judge that through his community service, which is part of his sentence, he wants to help others not to make the same mistakes that he did. The judge also took testimony from a woman who works with him as a volunteer at a church that feeds the homeless. Both the judge and the prosecutor said that they don't believe that Simpson was actually trafficking marijuana, but that the package was intended for personal use for he and his friends. Simpson has been playing with the NFL for the Bengals since he was selected in the second round of the 2008 draft. He had a stellar season this year. He had 53 receptions, 758 yards, along with 4 touchdowns. Now, he is currently a free agent, and his attorney and his agent say that he will still face discipline from the NFL. Oh, and just to let you know, the judge did give him until 6 p.m. to turn himself in today to begin his 15 days, so he probably went out to a nice, expensive lunch.
Oh, I should hope so. Usually when I talk about these sports stories, I always bring up the fact that, these are highly paid athletes. This is at the peak of their conditioning, the peak of their careers. They can't do anything that would risk or jeopardize their lucrative salaries, So why do we give them so much guff over using marijuana? I mean, that's where I usually go on a story like this. But with the Jerome Simpson story, it's kind of interesting in that it was so much and that he was involved, he at least was charged with trafficking. Now, again, it doesn't seem like he was really trafficking. Why in the hell would a guy who's making millions in the NFL want to bother and take the risk of trying to make profit slinging bags. I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I can't see why he would want to do something like that. Which and you know, from listening to what Carrie was reporting on the story, where the judge was saying that he didn't think it was it the judge who said he didn't think it was trafficking involved either?
Actually, both the judge and the prosecutor agreed, and it was you know, this is one of those deals where they walked into court and they pretty much already knew how it was going to lay out through a plea agreement. Both sides had seen what was going to happen, so yes, they both kind of agreed. We agree you're not a drug dealer. You're an NFL player.
It's kind of weird, though, that you know, they would continue with the trafficking charge up until then. I mean, I wonder if it's just through discovery they found out that it wasn't really a trafficking involved thing, or maybe they just automatically assumed trafficking given the amounts that was involved there. Yeah, that could probably be it. Really weird case, and again, this is I guess it's good news for the Pigskin Potheads fantasy football team that would be getting some more superstars.
Always a silver lining. One of the most popular medical marijuana dispensaries in Eagle Rock, California, that's the LA area, has closed their doors under pressure from their landlord. The closure happened a few weeks ago, but they were one of the targets out of at least 25 medical marijuana dispensaries in the LA area that are battling lawsuits with the city attorney's office due to violations that are mostly zoning in nature. The American Eagle Collective was one of those accused of violating zoning laws, but the landlord of that building, where the AEC was located for the last 5 years, is now accused of violating health and safety codes by leasing to a property that deals in a controlled substance. The landlord says that she is bracing for the worst since the AEC paid almost $3,000 a month in rent for the 1,000 square foot facility. She said she's not sure what she's going to do because she still has to pay the mortgage on that building. The AEC was located there for years, and the president of the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council, Michael Larson, expressed relief that the business has closed their doors, saying that the people in his neighborhood did not like the business being there. Now, there is a small ray of hope for the patients who live in the area and depended on the Eagle Rock dispensary for their medicine. A shuttle service for medical marijuana patients and their caregivers has been set up to ferry people free of cost halfway across town to another medical marijuana dispensary. An Eagle Rock resident, Tim Ryder, began the program with the help of his organization, Cannabis Clubs United with the Community, a group that he says is devoted to the safe distribution of medical marijuana. The shuttle idea had been on hold for 3 weeks after they hit a snag because of DMV restrictions, permits, and licenses for the van. But they say they have cleared all those hoops and they will now begin a weekly service free of charge for Eagle Rock citizens. Now, Ryder was on hand Tuesday night at the monthly meeting of the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council to give a report about the 10-seat van's first official run. That was last Saturday. He handed out copies of the map that showed the starting point. The free shuttle will be running every Saturday from noon to 5 p.m., making trips back and forth. So far, patients are getting a ride to the House of Kush, but Ryder is hoping to work with more dispensaries so patients can have more of a choice about where they obtain their medical marijuana. The board had many questions for Ryder. They wanted to know if anyone could look at the funding. They were asking about his transparency. They wanted to know who was paying the driver, who was paying for the shuttle and the gas. Ryder said that since they are just starting out, they have no funding, and the group is self-funded as they get the program off the ground. Others had questions about the licensing by the California Public Utilities Commission, which regulates all manner of privately owned transportation companies in the state. But Ryder answered without much elaboration that he was allowed to take up to 10 people legally without their oversight. One of the members of the board cautioned Ryder and his group, saying that he was concerned that they might be targeted, citing this week's raid up north against Oaksterdam University. That Subdistrict 4 Director Peter Hilton said he didn't want to further any conspiracy theories, but suggested that the federal authorities have begun to target organizations peripheral to the activities of marijuana collectives. And he ended the meeting with telling Ryder to be very, very careful.
Well, you know, the effect of this is the symptom that we call NIMBYism. Not in my backyard. NIMBY. Not in my backyard. These people of Eagle Rock, we don't want to have dispensaries in our neighborhood because they're what? They're dirty, they're disgusting, they're filthy, they're crime-ridden. I mean, what's your excuse here? Because any excuse you want to give here is not going to hold up to what we've seen in the history of dispensaries or the police departments that have investigated them. Once again, this is just moralism, is what it is. These people don't like marijuana. They don't like the people who use marijuana. They have a preconceived notion of what those people are, who those people are, what they're like, and they are just exercising, rank discrimination here in trying to force that collective out of business. And kudos to the people that are putting together the shuttle service. Can you imagine any other business doing this? I mean, imagine like if they just closed the neighborhood tavern. Right? Can you imagine that bar owner getting a bunch of shuttles together to be able to haul people over to somebody else's tavern? Right? Never going to happen. Even if it was a CVS or a Walgreens or something like that. Can you see CVS or Walgreens putting their money out to try to haul patients across town so that they can get their prescriptions filled? Only in the medical marijuana community do we see this kind of actual true compassion, people really putting out of their own pockets and their own time to help the sick and disabled. It's just so frustrating to see California, 15, 16 years later after the passage of Prop 215, still fighting these battles for basic rights, the basic rights of people to be able to use this medicine, which in the Oregon law says is to be treated like other medicines, and we don't see that up here either. It's second-class citizenship is what it is. That's what medical marijuana patients are forced to endure right now, second-class Jim Crow citizenship in this country and in the states where the people overwhelmingly support their medical use.
And we now know that at least one marijuana legalization bill will make it onto the Colorado ballot this November. Colorado's Amendment 62 is a citizen ballot initiative that is seeking to regulate marijuana like alcohol in the state. Polls in the state are showing an increasing base of support for legalizing from all different demographics. Most recent polls show 49% of Colorado voters polled would like to see Colorado legalize and regulate marijuana, while 40% still think it's a bad idea. The support for medical marijuana in the state that heavily regulates their medical marijuana market shows 68% of voters agree it should remain legal for patients to use, and only 25% now would like to roll back that medical marijuana law. With hopes running high among advocates that this might be the year in Colorado, the group behind the Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol measure have turned from their signature gathering roles to now try to court votes. Today marked the beginning of that push in the next phase of getting marijuana legalized in the state of Colorado. A billboard went up today on the busy I-25 downtown corridor in Denver. The billboard has a professional-looking middle-aged woman and has the text that says, quote, "For many reasons, I prefer marijuana over alcohol. Does that make me a bad person?" Then in large letters gives the group's website, regulatemarijuana.org. Now, the group has already begun distributing flyers with another female as a model, this time a younger, smiling professional woman with the question, "Some people prefer alcohol, I prefer marijuana. Does that make me a bad person?" And then the flyer goes on to compare alcohol and marijuana health statistics. So what do you think, Russ? Do you think the "does it make me a bad person" ad line will move anyone?
I really like it. It reminds me, in the UK, they had an ad campaign. It was on the sides of their buses that say, "Nice people take drugs." And it kind of reminds me of that, pointing out that what we are talking about at its base is a moral issue. And I'm really glad the campaigners from Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol have identified that people's opposition is morally based. And while we can throw a whole lot of statistics and facts and marijuana is safer and so forth at them, we have to get them to address the root question. Does smoking pot make you a bad person? Is it something the government should have a prerogative to try to stop? And I think if we continue to push this line of reasoning, we can get marijuana legalization in Colorado, in Washington, and in other states. All right, Carrie, thanks for the headlines. I've got another story here that I picked up off of the Boston Herald, and hemp supporters say support is growing in Kentucky. And this has long been a story that we like to cover, the industrial hemp movement, which sometimes just doesn't get a lot of headlines. This from Lexington, Kentucky. Hemp isn't legal in Kentucky yet, but the eclectic mix of people at a recent seminar in Lexington was evidence that support for the versatile plant may be taking root. One by one, elected officials stepped forward to promote the virtues of hemp, staking out a position that once might have sown political trouble back home. They were cheered by liberals and libertarian-leaning conservatives alike. "We've come a long way," said State Senator Joey Pendleton, who has sponsored a string of unsuccessful bills seeking to reintroduce hemp in the bluegrass state. "The first year I had this, it was lonely," he said. Kentucky once was a leading producer of industrial hemp, a tall, leafy plant with a multitude of uses that has been outlawed for decades because of its association with marijuana. Those seeking to legalize the plant argue that the change would create a new crop for farmers, replacing a hemp supply now imported from Canada and other countries. The plant can be used to make paper, biofuels, clothing, lotions, and other products. Very good story coming out of Kentucky. The one thing we have to worry about is outdoor marijuana growers. I just saw a study out of Russia saying that hemp pollen can travel up to 12 kilometers. That's about 7 miles. So be careful if they start planting hemp around you. And with that, I think it's about time we take a break. Brian, what are we breaking on tonight?
Some weed.
Some weed. All right, back after this.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Norml Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215. Or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Marge, she's gonna narc on our stash.
We don't have a stash.
No, of course not.
On the road again. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Friends, it's time we legalize the responsible use of marijuana and stop treating marijuana smokers like criminals. We're destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of good, hardworking Americans every year in this country for no good reason. There's absolutely nothing wrong with smoking pot. For more information on how you can help legalize marijuana, please contact Norml at norml.org.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Groovin' Thursday. Our salute to all the dopest beats and killer rhymes that we find in the best of rap, hip-hop, soul, R&B, and funk. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Norml Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, folks, welcome back. 23 after the hour. Ganja John couldn't be with us today, so I'll take care of the Daily Toker Tune. Before we get to that, I want to remind you, we got Richard Lee coming on the show at 45 after. And coming up next after this song, we've got Terry Joyce with actor Jorge Diaz, who's a co-star of the new movie Bud's House. So we'll talk about that. Also want to remind folks that Toker Talk Radio, the second hour of this show, is now available as a podcast. You can go to rad-r.us/getttr with a capital G and a capital TTR. I know it's confusing, but we'll put it up in the chat room. We'll put it on our blog as well at stash.norml.org. You can order up your subscription or your season pass to our Toker Talk Radio podcast. It's $4.20 a month, $42 a year if you prefer. And all the proceeds help to offset our expenses and pay some travel expenses to get Carrie, John, and Kaliko out to these gigs with me. So help us out, and thank you to all of you who've already subscribed. It's going really, really well, and we hope to see more subscribers to our second hour, Toker Talk Radio, now available as a podcast. Those of you listening on stream, though, if you're live here at live.norml.org, never fear, this will always be free. You'll always be able to hear the stream for free. It's just those podcast listeners that'll have to subscribe. if they want to get into hour 2. Also, if you want to help out Norml Show Live and the Norml Network, you can just donate directly to our WePay account. That's available at stash.norml.org as well. We're trying to raise $4,200 by 420. We got 15 days to go, and we need about $1,000 more dollars. We're up to $3,200. We need about $1,000 more. So help us out if you can, or go to wepay.com/donate/NSL. Now we're going to get to our Daily Toker tune for our Roots Monday. Got this one off the IOTA promo net, and it kind of fits onto a rant that I'm going to take a look at in hour 2 on Toker Talk Radio. George Will has an article out in the Washington Post today about the legalization of drugs, where he talks about cocaine and heroin a lot. Not a whole lot of talk about marijuana. A lot of talk about cocaine and heroin. So in honor of that, I figured we'd pick on this song from an artist who calls himself Cocaine. This song is called Comin' From. On your Daily Toker Tunes for Groovin' Thursday. Get the download at our blog, stash.norml.org.
Fresh off the press, nigga. Keeping it raw and uncut for the streets, dig this. When people look at me, they act so surprised. They thought I would be dead, but I'm still alive. They always used to say I used to get too high, but they never seen the pain that was behind my eyes. If you never had a father figure in the household, to a child's mentality, the world's cold. Through his eyes, all he's seen is the suffering, and how another nigga pick up a pistol and kill his brethren. You don't understand where I come from, when you don't know where I come from. Understand where I'm coming from. Niggas don't have a clue. Understand where I'm coming from. How you gon' understand where I come from when you don't know where I come from? Understand where I'm coming from. Talk shit, but understand where I'm coming from. Understand where I've been, homie. Genocide in the ghetto is a way of life. Don't never bring a knife to a motherfucking gunfight. So you right where I'm from, niggas, anybody killing. Got 12-year-old niggas straight cap pilling. With no structure, no guidance. And not believing in itself, he results to violence. Said tripping, cigarette dipping. No matter if you bloodin', no matter if you crippin'. Stop being fun when homies get killed around you that you grew up with their brains on the pavement. Things change as time go on. It's a blessing that I really get to live this long. You know why? Cause you reap what you sow. If it hadn't have been for God, I'd be dead a long time ago, nigga. If it hadn't have been for God, I'd be dead a long time ago. My mama said I'm hanging with the wrong folks. Too much drinking. I'm getting high off the Cali smoke. I was just a young hustler. Watching out for the po-pos. Walking with cutthroat. Everything's going down in the ghetto. Testimony music. Real talk. Let it ride, nigga. Let that shit beat me.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times highest quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
This is Norml Show Live. Been busted? Need a lawyer? Call the Norml Legal Committee for an attorney near you. Find one at norml.org. Remember, attorneys are cheaper than a lifelong criminal drug record.
It's that freedom. I'm
Catch Norml News with Cannabis Carey every weekday on Norml Show Live at 7 p.m. Eastern, here on the Norml Network.
Weed.
That's Hooey Valley, hooey-ha.
Weed.
It's time for a return to the epicenter of American cannabis culture. With our guest, you know her from season 1 of NBC's Last Comic Standing. It's the Hollywood Hemptress herself, Terry Joyce.
All right, everybody, welcome back. And Terry, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you here.
I know. It's really deja vu right now. We had almost like 3 in a row, or 2 in a row.
Yes, 2 in a row. We had one of those odd fifth Fridays, and we got you last week, so we get you again this week. This would be your last one before coming to Portland?
This is my last show before going to Portland.
Well, that's good and bad.
Well, I know. It is good and bad. But then back in July, June, I'll be back here again, and so you'll be able to call me back from LA.
Far out. Well, it'll be nice to have you here live in the studio a couple times.
I can't wait to get up there.
Yeah.
And I would love to.
All right. So what's happening? I mean, we just had the raids at Oaksterdam up in Northern California. What's the reaction been down where you're at?
Well, I feel that everybody's pretty devastated by it, and we're all kind of shocked. It's almost like having an earthquake happen to us. And especially the fact that, Richard Lee's been so he's protested and been an activist and was behind Proposition 19. He's been very much in the forefront. So it creates a little bit of concern for people that are speaking out. That might also have businesses that coincide with what they're doing, and also people that have nonprofits. There's a little bit of fear kind of happens down here, and a little bit kind of they're a little concerned about themselves as well. We feel like we're under attack.
Right. It is an attack, and it seems to me as if it's coordinated. We've got multiple federal agencies, IRS, DEA, we got alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, Treasury, all these different agencies that are applying pressure in one way or another, specifically to the California medical marijuana industry. And to me, if I could bet on this, I would bet Joe Biden is behind this. If y'all don't know, Joe Biden, the current vice president, he was one of the biggest drug warriors during the 1980s. He's the reason we have an Office of National Drug Control Strategy, or policy, the ONDCP, the Drug Czar's office. Joe Biden invented that. He invented mandatory minimums and the crack and cocaine sentencing disparities. I think Joe's behind it, man. That's all I can say about that. All right, Terry, before we go on here with your guest, I wanted to bring up some trivia. Are you ready?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Are you ready for some trivia?
Oh, yes, I'm absolutely ready.
This is really interesting because you, me, and our next guest all share something in common.
We do. What is it?
Among other things, we all have a bacon number of 3.
Really?
Yes. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means, if you know what the Oracle of Bacon is, it's this thing where everybody's connected to Kevin Bacon. Anybody who's ever been in a movie, you can say, well, this guy was in a movie with this guy who was in a movie with Kevin Bacon, and however many steps it takes you to get to that to Kevin Bacon, that's your bacon number, right? So the lower your bacon number, the closer you are to Kevin Bacon. Now, my bacon number is 3 because I was in A Normal Life with Ray Manzarek, who was in Generation with Mos Def, who was in The Woodsman with Kevin Bacon. And you, Terry, were in a movie called Emperor of the Bronx.
Oh, my God.
With Mark Ginther, who was in a movie called Falling Like This with Karen Young, who was in the movie Criminal Law with Kevin Bacon.
Wow.
So you have a bacon number of 3. And our next guest, I will lead right to it. Jorge Diaz is in Bud's House. We're going to talk about it with Wesley Jonathan, who was in Panther, with Joe Don Baker, who was in Criminal Law with, you guessed it, Kevin Bacon. So let's get our guest on the show here. Jorge Diaz, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on with you guys. And actually, my bacon number, I just realized, is 1 because my great friend Rasika Mathur, she was in Crazy Stupid Love, and the scene was with him. And so she literally said that. I remember on her invitation to go see the screening, she's like, now your bacon number can be 1 because you're just one person away from Kevin Bacon. Yes.
Congratulations. So great to have that. So I was checking out your bio on IMDb. Looks like you've been working for a while here. And tell us about this movie, Bud's House, that you're in.
Yes, so Bud's House it's awesome because it's like a stoner comedy hasn't come out in theaters in a while. And pretty much this is a storyline. So we have a guy named Bud, who's Wesley Jonathan, and his 3 best friends. There's Jay Peasy, who's like a Eddie Murphy type, Pretty Tony, who's like this Italian kid who's like super into himself, and they have me, Uli, who's their Mexican friend, who's like this naive weed connoisseur, who's like this sweet guy but has a bunch of gangster family and friends, and kind of gets him caught up in this whole mess when we run out of weed. And we're getting kicked out of Bud's house, where we always hang out. And so suddenly we have like the local huge drug dealer and the Mexican mafia after us, while we're just basically concerned about getting high. And what's amazing is that I tell people, I'm like, when you go see it, like go in, like enjoy the film as if you're going in to see Friday or Half Baked. Because we had a lot of fun doing it, and we're taking hits while we're talking on the phone, like to each other through the phone. So we're exhaling through our cell phones, and someone on a public phone is actually taking the hit on the other side. So there's a lot of like fantasy to it. And
you figured out how to shotgun through telecommunication.
Exactly. Which hopefully one day will happen. You never know.
You know, there are scientists at the Google campus working on it right this minute, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I wouldn't doubt it.
So Bud's House is the movie. That's Bud's with a Z, Bud's House. And so is this, where are we going to be able to see this movie?
So if you go to budshouse.com, BUDZHOUSE.com, it's only going to be in select cities. So they're playing in Las Vegas, there's places in Southern California, and it's really random, but I'm hoping that they select the cities like based on like where they feel people would watch it, not in some like random ass town in Montana, but you know what I'm saying? But
hey, be careful about Montana. Actually,
Montana? I love Montana. No, I love it. Everyone should watch that.
Well, let me go over some of the cities here. We got like Orange and Ontario, California, Sterling Heights, Auburn Hills, Michigan. We got some Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Las Vegas, L.A., Toledo, Ohio, Ypsilanti, Michigan. There's a few places here where you're going to be able to catch this.
Yes, and I believe they're opening up a bunch of theaters in New York, I've heard. So we should be finding out also.
Right on. I'm looking at it right now, budshouse.com, BUDZHOUSE.com. So, I was looking also at some of your other credits here on IMDb. Boston Public, a show that I really enjoyed a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I loved the Boston Public show, and True Blood, and let's see what else we got in here. But the one that's I wish my wife was here to ask you about, the new series that's on that GCB, the Good Christian Bitches. How was working on the GCB show? Were you there for a whole lot of
I was there for a day. So you see me, I make like a little cameo, and I play Jorge the paramedic, and the whole scene is about the guy named Mr. Lord takes a Viagra and he has a heart attack, and so then I show up, and it's with the scenes with Annie Potts. It's a really and she's so sweet. She's like the sweetest lady in the world, and they're all. I just actually started watching the show because I hadn't seen it, and I only get that one episode because we shot it months ago.
Sure. And
it's really fun, and it pokes a lot of fun at like a lot of really like fundamental Christians And it's also really lighthearted, and it's great writing. It's the same writers from the Brothers and Sisters crew.
Yeah,
so it's the majority of them moved over to GCB.
Yeah, I've seen some of it as my wife has been watching it, and of course I'm lured in by Kristen Chenoweth. I'll watch anything she does.
Yes, and she's the cutest little thing, and she's tiny.
Yeah.
She's adorable, and she's so funny. So it's definitely worth watching just to go see her. Yeah, really.
Right on. So we're speaking with Jorge Diaz from the new movie Bud's House. Check it out at BUDZ, budshouse.com. And Terry Joyce is with us as well. Terry, did you have some questions?
Yeah, Jorge, I wanted to ask you. We were talking a little bit yesterday because Jorge was on our show with a couple of other members from the cast.
Yeah.
And Jorge mentioned how you use marijuana when you meditate. And would you share that a little bit, that process for you?
Yes. You know what? I shouldn't say I use it every time I meditate, but I've noticed I always feel I think once you're a centered human being, because I didn't smoke weed. I was telling Terry I didn't smoke weed until I was in college. And I grew up with it being all around me. My brother smoked all the time, and I had friends that we were in junior high, and they were growing a little plant in their attic. But I finally smoked it after being in hotbox cars and rooms all the time. And I feel once if you're not doing it to cope with something that you should be in therapy for, you know what I'm saying? But it just takes you to a whole other level. I feel you're so present, and I think that's the whole reasoning behind meditation, just being completely allowing yourself to be completely present and releasing whatever it is, releasing your mind. You know what I'm saying? And that and marijuana does that. And I feel if you go in with the intention of already releasing your mind, it only enhances the experience. And I've only had amazing experiences when I do that. You know what I'm saying? So I recommend everyone to try meditation and some yoga while you're a little brave.
Well, that's something, you and I share. Is I didn't try marijuana until I was 22 years old. And I think there's something to be said for getting through your adolescence and teenage years straight, at least as straight as you can. And then once, let's say sober as you can.
Exactly.
And then, when you've got your reality kind of figured out, that's when you start altering it.
Yes. No, I totally agree with that.
Far out. Well, Jorge Diaz, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I want to encourage everyone to check out budshouse.com, BUDZHOUSE, budshouse.com. And you got some other projects coming up we need to know about?
Yes, well, I was just on Raising Hope like a couple of nights ago, so if anyone TiVo'd that, you go check that out. That was I think that aired April 3rd on Tuesday night. And then I have a film called Philly Brown, which premiered at Sundance and now got bought and is being released in theaters. There's not a set date yet, but sometime in the fall. And Philly Brown's a beautiful story about a spoken word artist that turns rapper, and she's trying to keep her family together while she's going through the music industry. And I play the lead's best buddy in that. Right. And I'm smoking weed in that movie, too.
All right. Well, Jorge Diaz, thank you so much. And Terry Joyce, we will see you up here in Portland, Oregon the next time we see you.
I will.
All right. Check out Hollywood Hemptress Hour later tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific here on the Norml Network. And Terry and Jorge, thanks for joining us.
Good. Thank you so much.
Hey, when we come back, Richard Lee.
You're listening to Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit marijuanaissafer.com.
The Fox Network has sunk to a new low.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Norml. And if you're one of the 26 million Americans who smoked marijuana last year, you need to get involved in the drive to legalize marijuana. We need your help to stop the senseless arrest of more than 800,000 Americans each year on marijuana charges. Together, we can end marijuana prohibition and stop the arrests of marijuana smokers. To learn what you can do to help, contact Norml at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
Legalization, decriminalization, lowest law enforcement priority, medical marijuana, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis, industrial hemp. The world of marijuana law reform involves many different aspects of cannabis that interact nearly every public policy discussion in America, including healthcare, the economy, global climate change, law enforcement in prisons, immigration, religion, free speech, energy policy, and war. Now, we take a look at how re-legalizing marijuana will change the world in our Norml Show Live Cannabis Conversations.
All right, folks, of course, the big news this week everybody's been following are the federal raids of Oaksterdam University and other properties owned and operated by Richard Lee, who is now our guest on the show. Richard Lee from Oakland, California. How are you doing, Richard?
We're hanging in there.
Yeah, about as good as could be expected with federal authorities coming to your home. Can you give us an idea what that feels like? How were you treated by the authorities?
Actually, pretty good. It shows how far we've come. That, for instance, they didn't smash up the museum when they went to the dispensary in the back, and
a lot of times when
the fact that nobody was arrested is thing about it, as bad as it was. But the one thing I want that is bad. Sorry about those noises on my phone. As bad as this was for Oaksterdam and the employees who lost their job and the landowners who lost rent and the city of Oakland that lost a lot of tax money. Hopefully it'll be a good thing for the bigger war in general and hopefully end the war sooner and get people out of prison sooner who shouldn't be there and get cannabis to the people who it can help medically sooner and generally get people more active in politics and changing the law.
You know, you were instrumental in putting together Proposition 19 in the last election cycle, gaining the highest statewide vote ever for legalization of marijuana. Do you feel that this is retaliation by the federal authorities?
It may be. It's too soon to tell for sure. But in general, sure. I mean, this is politics. This is a big issue that is $50 to $100 billion industry, and so sure, the whether how directly you can tie it to doesn't matter. I think we know that this is a war, and the people who are involved in changing the laws are on the front lines and at risk.
We're speaking with Richard Lee, the founder of Oaksterdam University and the proponent of Prop 19 in 2010 to legalize marijuana in California. And Richard, as far as these warrants that were served, when we reported on the story, everything we were told is that the warrants were sealed, so we really had no idea what they were after. Is there anything more you can tell us about the warrants? Do we know what they were after now?
Well, the warrants said that they were after cannabis and, of course, money crimes, and the IRS was a big part of it. So it does appear to be as much about them wanting even more taxes, even while it's illegal. And I think this is ridiculous that they can't have their cake and eat it too. If they want the taxes, then they need to legalize it. You can't keep it illegal and then also expect people to pay more and more taxes.
Yeah, this country was founded by people who said no taxation without representation. This would seem to be quite un-American.
No more taxation without legalization.
That's right. No more.
Saying now.
There we go. No more taxation without legalization. Richard, another interesting thing that developed as the raids were happening, we got word that they were raiding the former location of your coffee shop, Blue Sky. Tell folks why you moved it, when you moved it, and what the hell were they doing at the old location?
Well, we still had some storage there, and we had to move it because of the landlord letters that were sent out. A charter school, moved in to the block behind us, not even on the same street, and pretty good distance away. And they moved in years after we had opened, and that was the pretense that they used to make us move.
Mm-hmm. And that was the Melinda Hogg, U.S. Attorney, 1,000 foot from a school edict that was going on there?
Right, and it's not like it's a school like you generally think of schools, like a elementary or high school with a playground and building that's built just to be a school in the middle of a residential neighborhood. No, this was a charter school that took over a commercial building or rented a commercial building years after we were already there. And that was the basis for the too close to schools.
Yeah, what an absurd situation where business owners have to pack up and move if a certain other tenant moves in nearby. It's just a terrible way to have to run this situation.
Yep, and there were liquor stores that were closer to the school and bars and other adult businesses downtown here, because this is in the middle of the downtown area. We're not like we're out in a residential area right next to an elementary school.
Of course. We're speaking with Richard Lee from Oaksterdam, the victim of federal raids just this week. And Richard, I know that you've got a petition going, a change.org thing happening. How can people online help sign your petition and add to some pressure on this issue?
We can go to change.org to sign the petition. It only takes a minute. Last time I checked, had over 15,000 signatures, and it's only been up for a little more than a day now. And it was the second most popular. If you go to most popular causes, we're right there at the top the last time I checked.
All right, let's get on that, folks, and make it the most popular. I mean, I know we've rattled their cage a few times, with the open for questions and the YouTube open questioning that the president has asked for, and every time he's ignored it. But we got to keep yelling. We got to keep pressure on the administration, on these lawmakers to realize that we're not going away, and we're going to continue to do this, and there's nothing they can do to stop us. So, Richard, everybody in the chat room is expressing a lot of support for you and just hoping the best for you. How are you holding up personally through this?
Minute by minute, hour by hour, but we've seen this before. Like when they closed down the OCBC, the Open Canvas Buyers Cooperative, back in 1998, other brave volunteers stepped forward to pick up the flag and open up more dispensaries and keep Oaksterdam going. And so I think the same thing's going to happen this time. With they may be able to slow me down or take me out, but they can't stop Oaksterdam, and they can't stop legalization. We just saw the new Rasmussen poll that showed that it confirmed the Gallup poll that showed that we gained 4% in the last year or so.
That's right.
And
I think you had a lot to do with that.
And the California Medical Association, that hasn't gotten enough press, that came out for legalization last October. So now we have the doctors versus the cops. Who are you going to believe on drugs?
There you go.
Who knows more about them? And the other thing that we need to educate people about too is jury immunity, jury rights, because I think that's a big tool that can be used in not just here but other places like Montana, where they're hitting people hard. They're prosecuting and hitting, and other states, that we need to educate people that serving on a jury is important, and that jurors cannot be punished for their verdicts. And we need to educate jurors to be quiet during jury selection. Don't tell everybody about how much you think marijuana should be legal before you're on the jury. Wait till after you've been on the jury and after you've had a chance to acquit someone of a marijuana crime.
That's right. It only takes one juror to be able to execute some justice in these cases, and so never convict.
A little bit. Actually, it takes a little bit more than that. Sorry to correct you.
Oh, okay.
Because they do have the alternative jurors now, and the snitch rule that they instigated a few years ago that says that if one juror refuses to deliberate, or they, basically the other jurors can say that juror refused to deliberate, and they can kick them off, bring on an alternative, and then convict you with that. So really, the way I look at it is you need like 3 or 4 jurors to refuse to convict to make sure that there is no conviction.
All right. Well, let's make that happen then. Let's just make that happen. Richard, people want to know about the future of Oaksterdam, both in Oakland and your other locations like in L.A. What can we tell them?
Well, Oaksterdam University, we've got the website has got an update on the classes that have been canceled, the classes that are still going on. We're trying to hold as many of the classes as possible, but they did clean out all our funds. But we have volunteers coming forward to help keep the classes going, and we're planning on having our weekend seminar class on the 21st and 22nd. So that may be a last chance if people want to come to Oaksterdam and take our classes. But hopefully we'll be able to reorganize and keep the classes, keep Oaksterdam University going in one way or another.
Yeah, I hope everyone get there and check that out. Check out the Oaksterdam website. And again, go to change.org and look in the most popular petitions, and you'll find the Richard Lee petition. I think we've also got a link to it at our norml.org site as well. Before we go, Richard, want to give you the last word to tell our listeners anything else that you want them to know before we have to call it a day.
Just to think about and educate everyone you know about jury immunity, and remember these 7 words: jurors cannot be punished for their verdicts. But you got to get on a jury before you can use the power that you're given there.
That's
so
right.
Remember that during jury selection, and don't let them use tricks like asking you if you would not be able to convict. You could always convict, right? When they ask you. Doesn't mean you're going to, but you can honestly say that you'll look at the case openly and decide at the end of it whether or not you're going to, how you're going to vote.
That's right.
And then in general, to thank everybody for all their support, all their hard work, people like you out there working every day. I saw you at the Baker Institute speaking, and really proud to see you in Houston with my mom.
I was just going to mention she was a delightful woman, and I don't think she recognized me at first from the 2010 coverage, but after a while we got to talking, and she says hello, and she's a wonderful lady. Yeah,
she's starting Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition. She's a longtime Republican activist, active in the Republican Party, and she is finding more and more Republicans like Pat Robertson, who are conservatives, who are seeing the light and realizing that cannabis prohibition needs to end, that it's racist and counterproductive.
That's fantastic. RAMP, Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition, and we'll have to have her on the show to talk about that sometime.
Excellent.
All right, Richard Lee from Oaksterdam University, you're a hero to a lot of us, and stay strong, my man, and we will be behind you all the way, supporting you every step of the way.
Right. Like I said, hopefully our loss here in Oaksterdam will be a gain for the bigger war effort.
We hope so. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Russ.
All right, folks, that's all the time we got here on Norml Show Live. Again, I want to thank Richard Lee for joining us on the show, plus Jorge Diaz and Terry Joyce. This episode will be available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/normalnet, as are all of our episodes. So check that out. You can also get the podcast download. Visit our blog at stash.norml.org. Coming up on Toker Talk Radio, time for a radical rant on OxyContin in America and some reefer madness needs cured. George Will's got a little reefer madness. Plus hanging out with Brian the Red and Cannabis Carry. Coming up in hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. So for Cannabis Carry and Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is Norml Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it on one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.